Have you ever considered that a treaty signed way back in 1713 is still dictating who controls one of the world's most critical shipping lanes today?
Welcome to Strategic Labs. If you're into this kind of strategic analysis, do us a solid and hit that like and subscribe button for more.
All right, so for more than 300 years, this tiny rock at the mouth of the Mediterranean has been a massive point of contention. It all kicked off in 1713 with the Treaty of Utrecht, where Spain handed Gibraltar over to Britain, get this, forever. But you fast forward a couple of centuries, and the people actually living there vote by a landslide to stay British, which led Spain to literally shut the border down for years. And now, well, Brexit has thrown a giant wrench into the whole machine. So today, we're going to break down the three core disruptions that really define this whole geopolitical standoff.
Okay, so the first major disruption here, it's a fundamental clash of principles. You've got an ancient, legally binding treaty on one side, and on the other, the modern-day will of the people who actually live there.
And this is where you really see the deadlock. The UK basically stands on two legs. First, the legal fine print of the Treaty of Utrecht, and second, the much more modern principle that a people have the right to choose their own future, self-determination. But Spain fires right back, arguing for its own territorial integrity, which is a huge deal for its national identity. They see the treaty as just an old colonial relic and say the people there now aren't really a people with the right to choose, but a population that was just installed under colonial rule. You can see how this is a direct collision between two foundational ideas of international law.
And that self-determination argument from the UK gets pretty powerful when you see the numbers. In multiple referendums, the people of Gibraltar have voted almost unanimously. We're talking around 99% to remain British. This isn't some 50-50 split. It's a crystal clear, consistent message that really complicates any argument that's based purely on historical maps.
And that leads us right into our second disruption. Because, beyond all the legal talk, Gibraltar is a huge strategic piece on the global chessboard. It's a military choke point.
Yeah, this is not just about a historical claim. Gibraltar gives the UK and its NATO allies a major military foothold right at the entrance to the Mediterranean. It controls one of the busiest shipping lanes in the entire world, it hosts critical naval and air bases, and it's a key spot for intelligence gathering. Now for Spain, what does this mean? It means a foreign military presence sitting right on its southern coast. You can imagine that's a constant source of, let's call it, strategic concern.
And that brings us to the third and most recent disruption, the one that has totally destabilized the whole situation, the Brexit Wildcard.
So, you have to ask, right? How does the UK leaving the European Union completely change the game for a territory that's physically attached to the EU but politically tied to Britain? Well, everything suddenly became a whole lot more complicated.
Brexit created immediate, real-world problems. First, that border. More than 15,000 people cross it every single day for work, and now that easy movement is at risk. Second, Gibraltar's whole relationship with the EU is up for grabs. That's forcing these super complex talks about maybe joining the Schengen area, the EU's passport-free zone. And who holds a lot of cards in that negotiation? Spain, of course. And third, it just casts this big shadow of uncertainty over Gibraltar's entire economy, which is heavily based on things like finance and tourism with deep ties to the EU market.
So when you mix these three disruptions together, what you get is a really uncertain future, with a lot of different, conflicting scenarios on the table.
So if you're looking ahead, the most likely outcome is probably more of what we have now, a tense status quo, with things flaring up from time to time. A negotiated deal to smooth things over at the border with the EU seems possible, but a huge breakthrough on sovereignty, like some kind of shared control deal, that feels highly unlikely, especially given how consistently the people of Gibraltar have voted against it. All of this leaves us with one final, provocative question. When you have a 300-year-old treaty clashing head-on with modern geopolitics, democratic will, and economic reality, something's got to give. The question is, which one will break first? This is just a preview. For the full deep dive, check out our long-form podcast on the channel. See you in the next one.